see. You look great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I just thought I could pick your brain a bit because you know firsthand all the things. And yeah, I thought it would be good timing since the ban is imminent and since so many people are going to like these Chinese apps. Just really wanted your take.
Well, okay, let's unpack this. Due to the refugees, due to these people flocking to all right, now I'm gonna keep saying this word, Xiaohongshu,
Uh-huh.
little red book. You guys are calling it Red Note,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Book, Red Note.
Red Note. I've
Um,
heard Red Book, Red Note. Yeah.
Okay. Little Red Book, Xiaohongshu. Due to everybody running to that, over 800,000 people is what I read yesterday, that this unintended blowback, this unintended consequence,
hmm
has quickly made the government realizes, whoa, we didn't want that to happen. I would love to know the first person that had the idea to be like, you don't want Chinese spies taking my information? I'll give all my information to China.
All right, here you go,
Um,
China. And you have to
yeah.
like on Rednote when you sign up, you have to of course agree to their terms and conditions. One of them being that you have to like agree to the Socialist Party's agenda, and it's like in there that you're gonna follow like the social guidelines and all this stuff. It's so funny. It's like so funny to me.
Well, social harmony, that
Yeah,
term, social harmony, is so important in China. Of,
yeah.
number one, we got to keep things moving.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
don't spread rumors. Don't go against the government. We need to keep everything functioning properly to have a functioning society.
hmm
So I'm not surprised that is the app in English?
No, like the actual icon is not, but you can select English and then of course like your buttons and the prompts will be in English, but it's kind of a
All the
crapshoot.
users and yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a crapshoot. So like, because I'm on there now, of course, and I see posts that are fully in Mandarin. Some you can click like to translate.
Mhm.
Some I guess it just depends on if you're looking at a comment or an actual post. But
Uh,
it's just a crapshoot. Depends on, but I think the more I'm on it, I notice the more English speakers I get. So I think it's actually got this a similar algorithm to TikTok to where if you are like I'm looking at, of course, the refugee content and all the Chinese people who are so wonderful saying, oh, you're so welcome and tell me more about this and how do you say this in English and can I help you with your Mandarin? And it's so nice. So the more I am
and can you help
interacting,
me with my English homework?
exactly. So yeah, I think it's actually like conforming to the fact that I'm English, or I speak English, and so it's really interesting.
I would say Xiaohongshu is pretty equivalent to Pinterest in China.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I'm on Chinese Twitter, Weibo, and
yeah.
I made a few posts about it, and one of my Chinese followers was asking me like, are you on this now? And I said, well, I'm too old for TikTok. I'm not really the target market for that, and I'm not a woman, so I'm not on Xiaohongshu. Which is and this is all my students have wanted to talk about this week.
Oh,
You know, again, my students being, middle management and, people like that, and mostly women, they're
mm.
all on Xiaohongshu.
Oh,
And
interesting.
they've been, have you seen this? Like, look at my Xiaohongshu feed. It's just full of all these, uh, that word, refugee.
Refugees, yeah.
I had never heard a Chinese person use that word in English until 3 days ago. And
Oh
now
my
everybody,
gosh.
yeah.
That is so funny. The crazy thing to me is that I noticed that like when I first came in, again, before I think the algorithm's like, okay, you're this, you like this kind of stuff. The things that just showed me off gate and the things I get like notifications for are like, here's a nice cup of coffee. And look at how I presented this pastry and how beautiful it is. Oh, and here's a really hot guy doing something innocuous, and it's
I hear
I
that
was like,
cute
yeah,
white
it's
boys have been getting the most attention, on Xiaohongshu lately
oh my
because,
God, I
well,
don't doubt it. I don't
I mean,
doubt it.
the majority of people on the site are women.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that-
Well,
I've
no,
I've also
Mm.
quickly to
Yeah, yeah,
point
go
out in
ahead.
this case, that black people have not gotten the exact same warm reception all the time.
I beg to differ.
Oh, good. All
I
right.
beg to differ. First of all, just me personally, like I feel like I've encountered just the most beautiful people. Um, One of the posts that I saw before I even moved over was a black guy who was like, "Yo, this place is amazing. I'm seeing all these awesome like threads of welcome and asking me questions that might seem a little off, but you could tell they're honestly curious. They're posting these like compilations of like extra dark skinned, beautiful black women. And so like
Mm.
there's this like deep curiosity, sure, but also respect and appreciation for black people. And so I think it's, for me personally, and just from what I'm seeing from other black creators, it's been very welcoming.
Being on another Chinese social media, I've been seeing, just compilations, collections of, these comments and these things. And I did run into one or two, compilations of a Jewish guy said, what's Judaism like in China? And
Mm-hmm.
all the replies afterwards are these
Ah,
like, and it's like, okay, there's trolls everywhere. So I'm glad. All right, don't feed the trolls, and I'm
yeah.
glad that you have had more of a positive experience like that.
I mean, who's to say that, that won't be wildly interrupted at some point? Because
Uh,
I'm sure there's this honeymoon period where we're all like, oh, this is neat and hello. And like you said, I'm sure the trolls will emerge. But just
on the
personally,
one hand,
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
as a person that's lived out here for so long, I had a taxi driver yesterday that wanted to do nothing but talk politics with me.
Oh, wow.
And it told me what a fan he is of Trump and Blinken, and
Oh
he
my God.
hopes Trump Greenland and whatnot. If person to person,
Yeah.
I don't think the honeymoon period ever ends. And I
Oh.
think this has been a shocking honestly at the end of my last class, I was just talking about this.
Uh-huh.
The PR coup that this is for China, the billions that they spend on their trash TV channel CGTN, which is almost unwatchable. They spend all this money trying to spread their message. This is priceless PR
Oh my gosh.
to, to,
Absolutely.
real- to really show, American people the other side of this. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, of course, Chinese are learning about, American expenses and the American way of life at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But they also get that from movies and Hollywood and all these other
True.
sources.
True.
Americans getting a real look at China is incredibly rare.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
again, I think this is just a wonderful interaction. As a person that lives here, I know these things.
Yeah.
China is, a wonderful. It has its faults,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, the cost of living, the GDP, PPP, purchasing power parity, with what you can buy with your money, you're actually richer out here.
Oh my
Healthcare doesn't
God.
cost that
Yeah.
barely cost.
You
You
show
know,
me tailored suits and clothes and outfits that you have that like custom shoes and bags and handbags. Your freaking wedding was fully planned from start to finish with it was exquisite. And you were like, yeah, it didn't cost but XYZ. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like in America, that would have been a whole, house payment for a full house, not the payment, the house.
at the house,
So
yeah, uh-huh.
so that's absolutely amazing. I know you mentioned some of the platforms like Weibo, but isn't there one called Douyin? And
Douyin.
so from what I'm seeing, everybody's going to Rednote, Redbook, but like you said, that's kind of like a Pinterest, Instagram-y kind of a site. Douyin
Mm.
is more like TikTok, isn't it? Like that's actually the real Chinese TikTok.
Douyin is TikTok. Yes.
Yeah, so it's why
Yeah.
aren't people going there? What's the difficulty with getting on that one, I guess?
I don't think you can download Douyin from the US App Store. That would be my
Oh,
quick guess there.
Okay.
That yeah, Douyin would be the Chinese App Store version. That's my guess.
Okay.
Interesting question, yeah.
Is that
Because
owned
it is literally it's the same
like
logo. It's the
logo?
same.
Oh, is that owned by ByteDance? And I'm guessing it's just there.
Yeah,
Okay. So
exactly.
then Weibo is like Reddit, Twitter, Chinese Reddit,
Yes.
Twitter kind of.
It's basically Twitter.
Okay. And I can actually get Weibo. I have Weibo and Weibo International. So I'm still trying to get on those to see what the difference is
I
or
didn't
if
know Weibo International was a thing. It
Weibo,
you
sorry.
know, as apps evolve and things like that, you're on Weibo. That's for the olds. I'm like, yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, 42. It's fine.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I'm on. So yeah, I've been on Weibo for 8 years or whatever, and I don't use my real name. I never use a picture. It's just a great place to post thoughts into the ether, and I have my
Yeah.
small amount of followers.
No, you sent me some things. It can be hilarious. But you mentioned like posting your picture and stuff. One of the things I did see on Rednote was that the Chinese people were saying the thing they're noticing that Americans are doing is that they come in and they not only have their picture as their icon or their avatar, which is so apparently that's really unusual.
Mm.
But also Americans post like 4 and 5 times a day, and that's really unusual. They're like it's not a problem, but they're noticing these little differences in how we behave
Hmm.
on social media, and I think that's
Hmm.
really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
with that being said, I guess like as we do have more refugees into the Chinese airspace, if you will, what would be some of your like top tips for Americans?
I've also seen a number of posts of people getting kicked off,
Really?
and yeah,
Oh.
and people knowing what the lines are.
Mm-hmm.
There are topics that are very sensitive in China, and if you go at them, you're just going to get kicked off.
Oh, like
The,
I don't know. Yeah, just
uh,
none of those things.
I would take poor off the list, but everything else you mentioned as a person living and working in China, I'm not even going to discuss on this Zoom call. In a lot of senses, most Chinese people around our age
Hmm.
and especially younger don't even know some of the things you talked about ever happened in existence.
Wow.
It
Wow.
is a very you post that picture, that famous picture,
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you talk about that event, down. It's and I'll put it like this way: it's a national embarrassment. Um,
Mm.
they this it was not an event anyone wanted to happen. And
Mm.
the consequences of it, no one wanted it to happen. And yeah, the Chinese government has been, compared to Americans, compared to the American government, has been quite heavy-handed in saying we're going to move past this.
Mm.
So, talking about things like that, um, instant trouble, instant ban, and it's you know, to the government, they don't like it. To the people, you're causing trouble and being disrespectful.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
in your topics and sex and whatnot, there are fine lines
You know,
that,
I
that are
think about
constantly
that.
moving as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, well,
Of what
well, I don't, we don't, again, this will be heavily edited before I put any kind of clip out. But,
knock yourself out. I'm very comfortable with everything we've said so far.
okay, but I'm curious and about because I do talk about you know, LGBTQ issues, trans, abortion, all these kind of things that are sex and sexuality related, but also are very contentious when it comes to the political space and things like that. So like like what does abortion look like in China? Is it legal? Is it acceptable? Or is it because so much of China is now Christian, is that a thing that they're looping into that? Or is, oh
So much of
gosh,
China is
it's
now
not?
Christian?
That was what I feel I don't know where I'm getting that from, but that's something that I'm feeling I'm coalescing in my brain that
Um,
Christianity is being um is getting bigger in China. And that's the only thing that really poo-poos abortion. So I don't know.
uh, all right. Well, I can break that down pretty quickly. Christianity is not huge in China. If it's
Okay.
growing, it's, there's 1.4 billion people. So, yeah, there's probably some numbers there, but it is a niche of a niche of a niche.
You know what it is?
Um,
I read the Crazy Rich Asians series and they're all
uh,
Christian. And I think
uh,
I was like, oh, that for some reason
Extrapolated
that,
onto it.
yeah, sorry
Yeah,
about that.
of the last 1,000 Chinese people I've met, I am thinking of three of them that are Christian.
Hmm.
Um, in Beijing, I could at least tell you where the Christian church is. In Dalian, I have no clue.
Mm,
I've never even seen it. I think there's one or two
mm.
in our city of 7 million people. Much
Wow.
unlike
Wow.
Charlotte, the
Wow.
city of churches. Yeah, city of 7 million people. There's probably like two churches.
Wow.
Um, Abortion, due to the one-child policy that ended, 8 years ago or so, 10 years ago. Um, due to that policy, abortion has been very common in China for the
Mm,
last 30 years, and is not the hot topic that it is in the United States.
hmm,
That is a right, in inalienable right
mm.
is, that
So
doesn't really get
it's just
discussed
medical
much.
care. It's not
Yes,
a
that
thing.
is. Um,
That's actually really
um,
beautiful. Like I kind of wish that were the case everywhere because it's just medical care. But interesting.
Actively spreading LGBT has had its ups and downs on Chinese internet and Chinese social media. On Weibo, I'm going to say about 5, 6 years ago, there was a boom blanket ban. They just banned thousands and probably millions of accounts,
Mm,
for talking about it. And it was one of those times where there was a huge backlash from the population.
mm,
They,
mm,
there wasn't actually anything wrong here. And we're going to press back against that. And there was a quiet receding of the government of like, all right, fine. You
mm,
know, identifying as it, identifying in that group and, just being a part of that community, no problem. Promoting it
mm,
is where you're going to run into a quick,
hmm.
it taken out of content or taken off the list.
Interesting.
Um, LGB, all right, let's take it from there. Lesbian, gay, bi,
Hmm.
um, that's accepted in Chinese society. Everybody knows somebody, and it's no longer a big deal.
Hmm.
I would say the first time I moved to China, that line was already starting to be like, we don't care.
Hmm.
Just don't talk about it. Don't ask, don't tell policy.
Now, are
Um,
the is it this a similar culture in that regard as far as like the flamboyancy, the like the ability to know immediately the way some by the way someone speaks, by the way they perhaps present themselves that they are homosexual.
I know what you mean, and not as much.
Okay. Okay.
It's a little more subtle out here. I would say, as an American with maybe a more finely tuned gaydar than
Hmm.
most Chinese, I can kind of, I'm thinking of a
Like,
student I have right now that, I mentioned to someone else. I was like, well, you have gay people working in your office. And they're like, what? There's a gay in our office? And I said, all right, let's do the math. You have 200 people in your office, and like about 3% of people identify as gay across the world.
yeah.
Like, by those numbers, you have a few. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking of this guy. And they're like, you think he's gay? And I'm like, yeah, of course the guy's gay. you know
Oh
and
my
and
gosh.
and, and I don't know that.
Right,
Maybe I'm
right, right.
putting on this, but from based on what you said, the presentation
Yeah, like the
and
mannerisms. Yeah.
affectation,
Yeah.
mannerisms, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, they're,
Okay.
and that has gone unnoticed by, most people in the office.
Interesting.
On the one hand, on the other hand, about a year ago, I walked into a bathroom and there was a woman in the bathroom, and I froze and like quickly looked around, like
Oh, am
I
I
thought
in
I
the
walked
wrong
into the men's
space?
Yeah, yeah. Am I in the wrong bathroom?
Uh-huh.
I see the men's stalls on the side, realize I'm in the correct bathroom, look back at them, and they just give me the little nod and walk past.
Ah,
And okay, you do have a trans person working in your office. You
ah.
know, that discussion has been made of you're trans, but you're going to still use the men's bathroom,
Oh,
and
interesting.
not a big deal.
Ah,
You know, on
interesting.
the one hand, on the other hand, talking about that online, um, pushing for that. Uh, I hate to use the word agenda,
Like
but
acceptance, I guess.
pushing
Yeah.
for acceptance, pushing an agenda online, making a big deal out of it, you're gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In society, it is, quiet and accepted. Online, it's not.
Well, I think from what I'm seeing, just from you and I interacting, and you living there for how long have you lived there now? It's been like 15 years.
On and off about 12, 13 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. But so yeah, but I feel like that same sentiment of, we're gonna, like you said, keep that societal kind of cushion and
Yeah,
everything.
harmony.
So, yeah, like societal harmony. I feel like that applies to so many things. Like you see the streetwear Elvis looking. I think that's more Japanese than Chinese, but you see like some of those more eccentric people. But for the most part, that is so nichey and that's so like that's tiny. I think most people in China, like you're not gonna have too much emo, you're not gonna have too much rocker, heavy metal. Like even though those things exist, baby metal and stuff like that exists. It's just it's very quiet. It's very quiet. So I can understand how that can apply to LGBTQ.
Very, very, very insular community.
Yeah, it's just nobody goes, too far out of the norm, no matter what you do.
All right,
Yeah.
a quick story. I used to have yellow hair,
Mm-hmm.
and it was talking to a student one time, and they're like, "Oh, I love your hair so much. That's so cool." I remember when I changed my hair color to brown in high school. This is a high school or university, one of the two,
Hmm.
and was instantly sent home that day by the professor
Oh my
and saying,
God.
"You are not allowed back in this school until you have the correct hair color."
Oh my
You
God.
know,
Brown?
and like, yes, and I was thinking like, what color was it? How old were you? And they're like, oh, I was in high school or university, and it was brown, like, and that
Wow.
still exists today.
Ooh.
From
Mm.
high school, you will be sent home
Mm.
for doing something like
So
that.
no crown
Um,
act.
Yeah, when I
Over
see someone, dressed in a kind of punk way or
Yeah.
something like that, it's not one in 1,000, it's one in 10,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they stick out, and I notice them, and I give them a little nice. You're that one in 10,000. It's like,
Right.
no, this is me, and I'm gonna rock it.
Oh, that's wild. I mean, I guess as a person in the LGBTQIA, if I were to then encroach in this new space on this app and I'm, I don't know, like feeling like, oh, this is bad or this is not like I guess what the message to them would be then, like, no, it's not you. It's just is how it is with everyone. Like, please don't take it personally. Like, or
It comes up in a conversation.
mhm.
I think it's okay to say, yes, I am in that community, and to say, I'm a member of that community. That's a lifestyle choice for me, and whatever your lifestyle choices are, let's all just get along. That's
Right,
fine.
right. But not
Um, Hey,
this is my identity.
really, yes, to
Yeah.
really identify with it, to really, so now let me deep dive. What are your opinions on this? What's the community
Mm.
like in your? Then you're pushing it,
Hmm.
And I did see a post that was removed, that made Weibo of a girl just coming out like, "Hi, I am a lesbian, and I'm new here on Xiaohongshu. Like, ask me anything." Deleted.
Oh God.
Like if that's your opening statement,
Oh my gosh.
China doesn't
Yeah.
want to hear the rest of what you have to say.
That's why. And
It
and
comes up in
that's
conversation.
yeah, which is sad and it's backwards and and it's demeaning. But at the same time,
You
you
people need
you're
to
coming here.
define their entire personality on that.
No, I'm not. I don't think that like I
That's
disagree with that
it
for anything. Like I just did a post about like where I address like pro-lifers top 10 fears, and I my first thing was people like this, and I showed a couple of accounts where their whole thing is pro-life, 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 it's murder, murder. I'm like, I'm not going to reach these people. Whenever you make this your identity, so I disagree with anybody making their whole selves about anything, because you're much more than that. You're a dancer or a mom or a sister or a worker, whatever you do. So no, I don't like that at all. But at the same time, I do feel like people should be able to be who they are without, fear, without ostracis, whatever that word is,
just
without being ostracized.
thank you. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, so to me that is sad. That is backward I mean, but it's backward in America, the way that trans people are treated. So I'm not trying to say that there's some special backwardness in the way that China treats it. I'm just saying that for anybody to not be able to fully be themselves, that's sad. And that's something that I wish weren't the case. But seeing as though it is, we have to move in these circles in a way that's respectful, considering that we're the ones coming into their area. It's not like TikTok. No, I'm not gonna
It's
agree with
not
that.
like TikTok. And I
Yeah.
would say, in talking about that issue, it being that way is fine and perfectly accepted in China, and nobody's going to give you a hard time about it.
Hmm.
And identifying your whole personality from the opening statement of this is what I'm here to talk about is not going to be accepted in the same way that it is in America.
Hmm.
Um, I do feel like, in my time here, the first time I put a foot in China was November 2005. And like I said, I've been on and off in China since then. Um, again, I walked into a bathroom with, what I thought was a woman, and that was, a totally accepted thing. It's not an issue, but if you make it an issue, that's where you're going to run into problems.
But let me ask you this. If you had made it an issue from an anti stance, if you had rushed out of the bathroom and gone to the boss and said, "Hey, there's this woman," would that have equally been as looked down upon or frowned upon as her just being herself? Or
That is that is a very interesting
because
way
it's
of
still
putting it.
rocking the boat, you know?
That is a very interesting way of putting it. No, I probably wouldn't have had any problem doing that. And you,
Oh,
you make a very good
interesting.
point there.
Interesting.
And online,
Hmm.
hate to say this, but I have to say truthfully here, being on the other side of acceptance online is probably not going to cause any problems.
Mm,
And that when you point it out like that and make me think about it, I do see, the, a lot of things pop up on
hmm.
Chinese social media of looking at the American way of life, and they look at the gun violence, the drug problems, and I mean, I hate to lump it in like that, but some of these alternative lifestyle choices as look at the madness that
Mm,
American society is.
hmm.
Um, the more quiet, I'll go back to the term "don't ask, don't tell" way of doing things in China. It, not only the Chinese government,
Hmm.
but Chinese people like social harmony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know Chinese people, there's 1.4 billion of them. I
Right,
am making
right,
the most blanket of blanket statements,
right.
but from my time of meeting thousands and thousands of Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
social harmony is important. And every to have a country so large, and to keep it functioning and growing. China has brought 500 million people out of poverty into a middle class life
Oh,
in the
wow.
past 30 years. A
Wow.
feat untouched in human history. Social harmony and keeping kind of everybody relaxed and in line and not fighting against each other had a huge part in it, of raising up the lives of more than in America.
Oh, wow.
500
Yeah.
people, and that
Yeah.
and that number is growing every day.
I never really
There's
even thought
still a
about that.
there's still a couple of hundred, peasant farmers left,
Mhm.
in different parts of China, that they are trying to,
But
grow this
what
middle
does
class.
the homeless situation look like in the cities or like in the larger urban areas? I suspect it's not
Mhm.
anything like LA or even Charlotte. Yeah.
I know of, again, a city of 7 million people that I live in, and I've been all over. I know of one very small, I would guess maybe 150 people, homeless camp that
Wow.
is, when I say taken care of by the Chinese government, like those people are taken care of by the Chinese government. And given places to say, there is no homeless epidemic. you
Mm.
know Seeing a homeless person, I can literally name two. They're
Hmm.
kind of famous in Dalian. you know
Really? Wow.
the one person, I don't think she's homeless. I just think she's schizophrenic
Hmm. Hmm.
and not really properly taken care of. She hangs out by the train station,
Hmm.
and there's another homeless guy that I'll see him bouncing around, but it's not, an epidemic. It's not a crack in the social structure out here.
Wow. Americans have of, oh, I'm in my, what I want is important and my life and needs matter. I'm going to complain to the manager. Like, no, like in China, from what I've gathered, again, I'm sure I could be off or wrong, but it seems like the government just doesn't care about life in that regard. Or I don't know if that's like striking anything for you, but that's how I feel like my takeaways have always been that if you
Protests do happen
uh-huh.
in every city, you know,
Hmm.
over various issues, over protecting the environment,
Mm.
better retirement benefits, better work conditions. Protests do happen,
Hmm.
and are not encouraged, but to a level are accepted.
Okay.
As a means of getting out injustices and things like that.
Okay. I don't know why I
Um,
have this picture of like it doesn't matter, like we'll just like shut you up or like if you do anything, smoke weed, criminal activity of any sort gets the heaviest penalties. Like I don't know why that's like always been in my head about
after
China.
after 100 years of humiliation, where Western countries, UK, US, and these other countries basically took over China and had them as a factory. This is from
Mm,
basically the entire 1800s.
mm,
The century of humiliation, and created an opium epidemic that
ooh,
ravaged the country. um Drugs have been a strict, they saw how it tore apart society in their own country, and they see how it tears apart societies in other countries,
mm-hmm,
and therefore it is not accepted. It is not,
yeah,
you know people that have those problems, are put in jail and given treatment, and
oh,
I mean, it's such a tiny percentage,
mm-hmm,
and obviously, online, in America and the rest of the world, I mean, it does not exist online. Most people don't. Most people know drugs. Those are drugs,
Uh-huh.
and they wouldn't even know. All right, name me a drug. Name me two drugs. They couldn't
Yeah,
do
they
it.
wouldn't do that. Yeah.
It's that far removed from society.
Wow, which is kind of amazing. So again, I guess like my thinking of, oh, it's this control thing, and like no, I guess to understand the history behind that makes a lot more sense. Wow.
How many lives have been ruined by drugs in
Oh my
China?
God. Yeah.
How many families, how many things have been torn apart by drugs in China? Barely any.
Yeah.
And is it wrong? No, no, there is an extra element of control that we're not used to in America that
Hmm.
allows that to happen. But, as in that case, it is something that has, by not destroying lives, has embittered the lives of millions and millions of people.
That's awesome.
And
I don't know if
I
it'll.
gotta go.
Oh, well, fuck it. Like let's just call it a day. But I really appreciate the like all the information, you taking the
Great
time.
talking. I'm gonna take my leave.
All right, love
Wonderful to see
you.
you.
Yeah,
Wonderful to
so good to
talk to
see
you.
you.
All
All
right,
right,
take
I'll
care.
talk to you soon. Bye.